Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now.
Welcome to Sekulow Live. This is Jordan Sekulow. We're awaiting right now Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel will arrive at the White House to meet with President Trump. Part of that agenda item, again, will be the opening of the U.S. Embassy officially in Jerusalem. That move has already been announced with a lot of praise from Israelis that our president was the first president, President Trump, to do what Congress has authorized for many years, for many past presidents, that allows the president to decide to move our nation's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. And now we recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state of Israel. We also know that Prime Minister Netanyahu will invite President Trump to attend the opening of that new embassy in Jerusalem. On top of that, last night, the president of Guatemala announced that following the U.S. lead, and he thanked the United States for taking this lead, that they too, so a second country, is now moving their embassy to Jerusalem. And this is how you kind of start a wave of countries following the U.S., because when you lead from the front and you take that ultimate first step, as the U.S. did, other countries will follow who support Israel. And so we're already starting to see that. And they're saying we needed a country like the U.S. to take that first step. And now, because of that action by President Trump, yet another country will be opening their official embassy in Jerusalem and recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. That is big news. It is very significant in that region of the world that additional countries, and I believe there will be more. This is just the beginning. And again, so it's the symbolism is very important, but also actual what it means geopolitically. Now, there's a lot that Prime Minister Netanyahu and, of course, President Trump can talk about as well. And we're going to bring in Wes Smith, our senior military analyst, because of what's going on with Syria, Russian involvement in Syria as well, and, of course, Iran. The U.S. has a lot to play in all of these issues. We want to take your phone calls on this. We know we have a lot of strong supporters of Israel, and taking your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110 if you want to talk to us on the air. That's 1-800-684-3110. How significant do you think it is that yet another country, when you lead from the front instead of lead from behind, another country is following our lead and opening their embassy in Israel's capital of Jerusalem? Folks, right now you can support the work of the ACLJ and actually double the impact of your donation. We have going on right now a matching challenge. That means a $5 donation becomes $10 to the ACLJ, $20 becomes $40, and larger donations, $50 becomes $100 to the ACLJ. You donate right now and double the impact of your financial contribution, and you can make that donation either online at aclj.org or by phone by calling our toll-free number 877-989-2255. Be part of this matching challenge and double the impact of your donation. Call now, 877-989-2255, and support the ACLJ today.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
the last 7 years, the Middle East went through an earthquake.
Today, the group Hamas declared a day of rage, urging attacks on Israelis.
If you step back and look at the picture, you can see the circle enclosing around Israel.
This conflict has never been about establishing a Palestinian state. It's always been about the existence of a Jewish state.
Jewish wedding in Israel interrupted by air raid sirens.
Human shielding pays today.
Why did you put the rocket there next to the school? That's the person that committed a crime against humanity.
BDS is a new form of anti-Semitism. The call to boycott the state of Israel, to divest investment from the state of Israel.
Graphic new video of violent protests and terror attacks coming out of Israel.
That messaging will continue. So we've got to be prepared to be aggressive in fighting it anytime it raises.
The entire conception of this is to destroy Israel by turning Israel into an oppressor and using all these different instrumentalities, not just warfare on the battlefield, but lawfare.
When they say that Israel should be wiped out, that they mean it?
I don't have the luxury not to believe it.
The first nation in the world to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and put their embassy in Jerusalem. But now a second country has decided to follow the leadership of the U.S. President Morales of Guatemala called President Trump's decision on Jerusalem, quote, courageous. And he thanked the American president for leading the way and encouraging his country to make what he called the correct move. That is the president of Guatemala, because they too will be moving their embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state of Israel. So significant moves. Thank you to the Trump administration on this foreign policy decision for doing what other former presidents, those who said they were pro-Israel, those who we questioned their stance on Israel, failed to do. President Trump had the guts and the will to actually see through and get it done, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, which is being constructed as we speak. But we know another important part of this meeting, and I want to take your phone calls on it, 1-800-684-3110, is the U.S. and Israel together taking a firm, united stance against this Iranian aggression that we are seeing play out in Syria, as well as, of course, and that includes Russian aggression. But I think most of the focus will be on Iran. But we know that when you're talking about Iran in Syria right now, you're also talking about Russia in Syria right now. So we've got Wes Smith, who is again, our senior military analyst, retired colonel from the U.S. Army, in the studio with us today. And Wes, that is very significant when you're talking about, having these nations, two nations like Israel and the United States, make those joint statements about that they are standing firmly in their commitment, to combat this aggression by Iran wherever they find it.
Yeah, I think you're right, exactly right. And part of what I think Prime Minister Netanyahu will talk to the president about, as the Obama administration was winding down and President Trump was entering office, they came up with an agreement, part of the deconfliction agreement between Russia, Iran, Turkey, and the United States. But in this agreement, it allows Iran to keep a permanent military presence in Syria. And this is really a destabilizing influence in the area, because although this happened less than a year ago, Iran has already started sending troops, weapons, supplies into southern Syria and into Lebanon. They're started creating missile factories in Lebanon. And of course, Hezbollah is there, supported by Iran. They already have over 100,000 missiles with which to target Israel. But part of what Iran is doing with these missile factories, they are putting in new guidance systems. Iran has a fairly sophisticated rocket and ballistic missile system in violation of UN sanctions. And part of their technology comes from North Korea. So you have this axis of evil again. But they're actually sharing some of this technology with Hezbollah in order to improve the accuracy of their rockets. Iran's malevolent influence in the area, and the destabilizing influence there cannot be overstated. And of course, Iran is allied with Russia in propping up the Assad regime, and it's a very volatile part of the world. And in fact, as you indicated, Israel's security is on the line. Iran is on record as saying they want to destroy the Jewish state. They have worked in the past through their proxies, such as Hezbollah and Hamas, but now Iranian troops are going to be permanently stationed in the southern part of Syria near Israel.
For our Facebook and Periscope audience, we can show you that base, which is an Iranian base now in Syria, Iranian military base. We put that up on the screen there. It is. We'll show it during the break as well. For those of you who watch on Facebook and Periscope, if you're listening on radio, again, this is very clear intelligence that Iran now has a military base right in Syria, so a permanent kind of presence. Do you believe that with the U.S. and Israel combined, that they can defeat this Iranian aggression as Iran moves closer and closer to a nuclear weapon? And what do you think the U.S. and Israel will have to do to prevent a nuclear Iran? To prevent Iran from becoming a North Korea-type situation where, as some have said, preemptive strikes may be necessary. I think that was John Bolton who said, the damage that it would do would be worth it in the long run. Now, with Iran, they haven't gotten to that point yet, but they are certainly racing there with their missile capabilities and just kind of waiting for the clock to run out on the nuclear deal, which has about, 7.5 years left on it. So, again, I'd love to get your calls. What do you think it will take from the U.S. and Israel to stop this Iranian aggression and their push for a nuclear weapon that can be delivered through an intercontinental ballistic missile? Logan, comments coming in through Facebook and Periscope?
We're starting to get them right now. A lot of people, like Dina just said, very grateful for Guatemala's move. So comments are coming in. A lot of positivity towards the movements for Israel. You want to go ahead and take a call?
Yeah, let's
go to Ezra in New Jersey on line 1. You're on the air, Ezra.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm actually following up with a question that I asked several months ago to the station over here. The Taylor Force Act has been held up within the Senate for about 3 months now. The House obviously passed its version of the bill.
Yep.
Why haven't they reconciled? Obviously, the move of the embassy is important, but I think a more important message that the United States must be sending to the Palestinian Authority is that we don't respond to terror, we respond to direct negotiations.
Yeah, and the Taylor Force's family actually met with senators last week urging the passage, Ezra, so a very timely call. Let me explain to people who that is and what we're talking about. Taylor Force was an American citizen killed in a Palestinian suicide bombing attack. After that attack, there was legislation proposed. It passed the House of Representatives that America would stop sending economic aid to the Palestinian Authority until the Palestinian Authority changes its laws to cease paying stipends funneled through the Palestinian Authority's Martyrs Fund to individuals who commit acts of terrorism and to the families of the deceased terrorists. Remember, we consider the Palestinian Authority the moderates. They still have a Pay the Martyrs Fund for families. Usually those martyrs are killed in their attacks. If they're suicide attacks or stabbing attacks, they're ultimately usually killed or detained indefinitely and then prosecuted. Because of that, then they have a martyrs fund. These are the moderates in the Palestinian world and who are in charge of the West Bank that again, we fund. And so this legislation would say no more funding until you stop paying these terrorists and their families for carrying out attacks on civilians. And so that would make it very difficult for the Palestinian Authority to keep that funding. But it's been held up so far in the U.S. Senate. That's why Taylor Force's family is in Washington, D.C., meeting with U.S. senators right now to get this passed. I think if it can get through the Senate, it's gotten through the House, and certainly President Trump would sign it. The question is, are there enough votes to get through the filibuster in the U.S. Senate? I can't imagine how anyone votes against this. As Lindsey Graham has said, I'm more dedicated than ever to make sure that the Taylor Force Act is signed into law by President Trump. And then Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, so from the far left, said the bill is, quote, long overdue. I think that this is something we're actually going to see get done, Ezra, and it will be, again, a test for the Palestinian Authority. Are you willing to stop paying your terrorists and your terrorist families who attack Israelis and cut out that Martyrs Fund so that you can continue to receive U.S. assistance financially? Or Are you willing to put your people in an even worse economic situation by continuing to pay for terrorists, but no longer get U.S. support, which would, by the way, mean that less people had food on the table, less infrastructure, and that things got even worse in the West Bank? It is, again, legislation we support and that we hope there is movement on. It looks like there's bipartisan support for in the Senate. They just need to get their act together and get this passed. Folks, right now you can support the work of the ACLJ and actually double the impact of your donation. We have going on right now a matching challenge. That means a $5 donation becomes $10 to the ACLJ, $20 becomes $40, and larger donations, $50 becomes $100 to the ACLJ. You donate right now and double the impact of your financial contribution, and you can make that donation either online at aclj.org or by phone by calling our toll-free number 877-989-2255. Be part of this matching challenge and double the impact of your donation. Call now, 877-989-2255, and support the ACLJ today.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
From our ACLJ Jerusalem office, David Benjamin joining us on the line. He is also not just with us at ACLJ Jerusalem as our senior counsel there, but an IDF, Israel Defense Forces reservist. He's joining us now to talk about the significance of this meeting between his Prime Minister Netanyahu, and our President Trump, who have had a very good relationship. Of course, some of this discussion is about the embassy move that is happening from the United States to the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. And I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be inviting President Trump to attend the opening of that embassy. We also know that a second country is following suit, Guatemala, saying it appreciates the U.S. taking a leadership role here, making it easier for other countries to make the right decision and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and open up their embassy there as well. Let me go right to David Benjamin, though, because, David, we also know that the more serious part, and again, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel is very serious as well, and the move of the embassy, but a very serious part of these discussions today will revolve around Iran's increased presence, creeping closer and closer to Israel now with establishing a base inside Syria. And it looks like they're going nowhere fast when it comes to not just propping up the Assad regime, David, and then kind of leaving, but keeping a military base there as well.
Yes, Jordan. Of course, we're becoming more and more aware of Iran's steady build-up of forces, of bases. We're talking about something in the region of 20,000 militia people from various countries who Iran has set up there in Syria. The commander of the Revolutionary Guards recently said he wants to position his men one night's journey away from the Israeli border so that they'll be able to carry out raids into Israel in the future. So this is going on. It's really no more a secret to the extent that it ever was, and this is a huge concern. And of course, Iran at the same time is still enjoying the fruits of the nuclear agreement has been able to bolster its economy, been able to support Assad, been able to extend its military and terrorist interests around the world with very little, if any, interference from anybody. So, of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu will be looking to the American administration to the extent that it can to bring to bear its diplomatic leverage, at least, in Syria and in relation to Syria, in relation to Iran, to try and take the pressure off Israel, because it's a huge concern.
Yeah, I mean, I explain it, David, but to have an Iranian base, not even a proxy like Hezbollah in Lebanon, but to have an Iranian base in Syria, knowing that, yes, we know those regimes have coordinated closely, but that Iran is basically building a permanent presence, as you will, if you will, inside Syria. They are using these routes and allies that they have created to get, it seems, just closer and closer to Israel on different fronts. And so that they have much more capabilities than the Syrian military. Syria is going to be kind of a disaster zone for many years to come, even after this conflict comes to an end, if it really ever officially does, the civil war fighting and the various factions involved. So Iran looks at the chaos, as many terrorist supporters do, and say, when there's chaos, there's a window for us to put in our facilities, and the Syrians won't mind it, and because they need our help. But then they've got this permanent base right there, that much closer to Israel. And what are Israelis starting to be concerned about, the encroaching Iran, if you will, on different, now it's not just the northern front, but now, to the kind of like the eastern front as well?
Very, very much so. I mean, that raises the specter of a possibility of an actual direct confrontation between Israel and Iran. Well, you could say we've already had that when Israel intercepted the Iranian drone that encroached on Israeli airspace. But that could escalate into something really, very serious if we actually have Israel facing off against the Iranian juggernaut, so to speak. That's not just Hezbollah, it's not just Syria. That's Iran itself. And of course, I don't know if Iran's actually interested in that sort of situation. I can't see their immediate interest, at least in wanting to get into that kind of conflict. But they seem quite defiant, and they don't seem to be deterred, at least for the meantime, to go ahead with their establishing themselves in Syria, and with an eye towards, at least in the future, if not in the present, threatening Israel too.
All right. Let's go to Albert in Las Vegas, Nevada. You're on the air.
My personal thing, I was in the Israeli Air Force. I think that the U.S. and Israel should, at the same time, attack the Iranians in Iran and the posts in Syria before we move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem with peace in our mind. We should try to destroy their capabilities.
The nuclear capability. So, David, that brings me to the second point, which we know will be coming up in the meeting between the White House and President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, which is these increasing missile capabilities of Iran. And, of course, they're kind of on their countdown clock till when they can restart their nuclear centrifuges. They've gotten many of the benefits of the nuclear deal. They've gotten the money. They've gotten these resources. They've been able to keep a nuclear program going. Do you foresee? I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen before that we move the embassy, because I think it's a major decision. But do you foresee the potential for the need of that kind of military action with the U.S. and Israel targeting Iranian nuclear facilities?
Well, I think we have to accept that possibility is always going to be around. I differ from your caller a bit, because I think there are other options which can be employed effectively before that. The world can actually apply quite crippling sanctions to Iran and really force them to change their policies in their own interest. I think that certainly we should be trying that route before we consider actually military action. Of course, Israel has been taking military action against the Iranian presence in Syria. Right, a lot more than we've actually been exposed to in the news, and I anticipate that will continue at least on the direct, immediate Syrian front. In terms of the greater Iranian threat, which is the nukes, etc., I think sanctions are the way to go. Diplomatic pressure, certainly in the first instance, but absolutely, I don't think any other option can be taken off the table, and Iran has to know that.
Folks, again, we benefit greatly because of your support. We have Aclj Jerusalem. We have David Benjamin there, and he's got a team. He serves also as an IDF, Israel Defense Forces reservist, so serves the nation of Israel as well. That's because of your support. We have a matching challenge right now where whatever you can donate to the ACLJ is actually double the impact of your donation. And so a great time to do it because that's how we have an office in Jerusalem and why David can call in. David, quickly, last question for you. Just what is the most pressing issue for Israelis right now?
Well, actually, we've said it. It's Iran.
Iran.
I think it's definitely Iran.
And we know Iran is coming up in the conversations today between our president and your prime minister. David Benjamin joining us live from Israel at ACLJ Jerusalem. Let me thank all of you for joining us today on the broadcast and encourage you to take part in our matching challenge to financially support the work of the American Center for Law and Justice. The reason why we have that office in Jerusalem, in Israel's capital, is because of your financial support for the ACLJ. It's how we do the work that we do here in the United States and around the world. We have a matching challenge right now, which means whatever you donate is doubled for the ACLJ. So $20 becomes $40, $50 becomes $100, $10 becomes $20. It's a great time to support the work of the ACLJ financially because you're doubling the impact of your financial contribution. Call now. Toll-free number to make your donation by phone. That's 877-989-2255. Again, it's 877-989-2255 or donate online at aclj.org. We'll talk to you next time.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.